all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
Hey, welcome everyone. This is Dave. And it's normally Dave and Mecky's Shiny Side Out, but I haven't heard from Mecky today, so look, it'll be solo till he arrives. We're broadcasting on WCCR, coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio, where, meaning the website, it's home to fresh, unfiltered ideas and conversations. You'll find those in the chat room where I am right now. And it's also a great place to get your merchandise. Do support the station, support the hosts, and get yourself some merch. You can just donate if you want to. That's another way. It doesn't matter which way you do it. And we also advertise that you tell your friends about this. Tell your friends about this cool radio station you found on the internet. Do that. Send them a link. Say, listen. Send them a schedule so they can choose what to listen to, I suppose, whenever they're available. I actually listen to it when I'm driving my car. I think it's pretty cool. I am looking into trying to do a podcast through converting our show into a podcast that's available for streaming services other than direct listen. And we've also got a YouTube channel too, by the way. So I think I can just simply do paste now into the chat, and this is the current show that's streaming right now. And occasionally we show things and there that you can't see if you're only listening to this as pure radio. So do use that link. You can catch us on air. Oh, I should have said the show number. Guess what? This is 575. 575 shows. There's only a couple that we've missed because the station has other programming on. And Christmas, yeah, and New Year. That's pretty much it. So if you had, that's 11 years. Yeah. I think there's only two of us. There was only two. Loud and clear, Dave. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Pony. There was only two, I think. Never mind. I'll leave it alone. So you can catch us on air, online, and anywhere using a smart device. And if you want to do that, you can simply just grab an app to listen from anywhere, or you can purchase a Grace tabletop digital radio and listen sitting in your armchair at home. Presumably on the front porch. You can do that. It's actually pretty cool. Let me have a look. So, if you miss Solaris' show, you know what? You can grab it in the archives, but you don't really need to, because she comes on before us. It's also always an awesome show. Great guest, great show, great topics, and tonight she had on the Cyber Witch Cafe. And that was with Niche and herself, and they were talking about high strangeness, which is an awesome topic. You can't go wrong with high strangeness. Which also explains why Mecky's not on. I've messaged him, I tried to call him, there's nothing. And that's high strangeness right there too. It's unusual for Mecky not to have announced in advance that he won't be making it, he's running late or something. Having a snooze. Maybe he's traveling. I don't know. But we'll get to the bottom of that a bit later on. Did you know that it's free to access the archives on the Freedom Slips archives on revolution.radio? If you didn't know, well, it is. Guess what? It is. And you can just examine other people's shows. You don't have to tune in when they're online. You can just download a show. I think we've got a couple of years worth of shows there. The majority of our shows are on our YouTube channel, which is Shiny Side Out. Just look for that on YouTube, and then we should be the only one. And we have RR for Revolution Radio at the end of the title of our channel name. And you know what? You can. I couldn't be. Sorry, I should say I didn't have enough time to be able to group them into show topics like I've always intended to do. I seem to have to constantly prioritize the rich amount of work that I've got to do. And I mean, rich as in thick, there's tons of it, into just whatever boils to the top until it gets a bit easier. So apologies. And the website, I haven't updated the website for years because they've moved the editing platform so many versions in advance now. It just basically errors out and won't let me edit it anymore. And I just, who has websites anymore? Anyway, I'm broadcasting out of Darkinjung country, and Meki and I, together as Shiny Side Out, acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. Where I live, it's the Darkinjung people, and where Meki lives, it's the Daruk people, and we pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Look, I want to extend this invitation to you to have a look and learn about the people in the area before colonization or invasion or whatever you want to call it for yourself. When we took over the lands of the traditional people, work out who it was, work out where they lived and how expansive their domain was. And then maybe there's some lessons you can learn from how they lived on the land. In Australia, there was bushfires. They used the fires to do a few things. One, make a safe living environment because it burns everything, including all the venomous creatures and all the deadly creatures. It burns them and in large swaths so you can live reasonably safely. It also clears everything, so hunting is much easier. And then they would live there for a few years until it regrew, and then they would move on to another unburnt section, which hadn't burned from the last fire, and burn that and then live in that for a while. And that's pretty good. The new growth actually brings the younger creatures back in, and the ones you can eat, and you can eat those. You can eat the creatures, so selectively. And when there's good rain and good food, kangaroos will breed. So water and food is enough for them to breed. If there isn't enough, they can actually halt their embryo from maturing, and they can line up another one. Believe it or not, they've actually got 3 paths that the fertilized egg can take, and they can park one. So they can park the current one, they can pause it, and they can have another one parked ready to go. So they can really quickly churn out some young. And when it's plentiful, it's game on. If you don't think that's interesting, I don't know where you live, right? That to me it is. So I wanted to say, New South Wales, the state in which I live, just had yesterday our state election, and it changed hands after 12 years. It changed hands from conservative, I suppose, to whatever America calls the opposite of that. I think you call it liberal, but our Liberal Party is the Conservative Party. That's the right-wing version in our system. And the left wing, who is more about the people, up. And the right is about big business, down, if that makes sense. Well, we've just moved away from the right side, and now the left side is coming to power. But it also is federally under the national voting. It is, we call it Labor. So that's LABOR. And that is the Labor Party is now controlling every state and territory within the mainland of Australia. For, I think, only the 3rd time since the end of World War II. And it's also a first for winning an election after 12 years. I think there was some really crazy numbers that came out. And some media outlets called it a landslide, but I mean 10% isn't really, 10% swing isn't a landslide. And landslide would mean that you got everything, in my mind. right? That would just when you demolish the opposition. There was something really interesting when you're listening, when I was watching the broadcast. And now this isn't specific to everyone in Australia. This is only a state that I live in. And for those of you who live in Victoria, for instance, you just look north and go, oh, what have they done the same thing as the we just did, right? Anyway, what's interesting was the speak about the losing party, who had already by 10 o'clock at night, from 6 p.m. through to 4 hours of waiting for the numbers to get counted to be more than certain that who was declaring a winner somewhere. The independents pretty much fell by the wayside. The Australia First Party, or whatever they're called now, Australia One Group, I think that's what it's called. They didn't decline, but they didn't get the numbers they were looking for, and they kind of stayed stable. But that didn't mean anything. Most of the others lost, and the one that was in the incumbent, the Liberal Party, let's just call them the Blues, and the Reds got in. The Blues, when we were talking to one of the representatives, he said, look, there's been a number of really key topics to talk about here. And he said the first topic that was important was, this is in their mind. They've just seen this. They know what it is. It was crucial to them winning. They identified that the frontline workers for the last 3 years have been underpaid. Those nurses, for instance, and teachers, nurses and teachers for the most part. Frontline workers working in health and education are underpaid. Did they do anything about it? No, didn't. We're never going to. There was never a time when they said to themselves, you know what, actually maybe we should just lift their wages up. Because their calculation said that would crush the economy. There'd be no way to do it. Just can't do it. It's never going to happen. Plus, who cares? They're only frontline workers. He didn't say those words, but because they did nothing, but completely understood the actual problem and did nothing, that's a problem. That shows that they don't care about the person. They're more focused on, well, how efficient is big business? Because they're our main sponsors. So, how are you guys doing? Oh, we're doing great. This is great. Yeah. Don't worry about that. The banks, yeah. We're putting our interest rates up. It doesn't matter, right? We're good. Well, how are you good compared to the rest of the world? Solid. And then you hear, oh, what? Did our banks have any risk as far as those other countries, the other 5 banks that have failed so far globally? Do they have any buy-in to those failures? Do they have any investments in those? Are we going to get infected? Right? Are we going to get infected? That's really what they concerned themselves with. Except it's no different than being the person who's responsible to fill potholes on a road, but you just go like, it's going to be really expensive. Yeah, but it's your job to do it. Just do it. Just make it happen. I don't care. Fix the potholes. And then the opposition party says, you must fix the potholes. And they win as a result. Hang on a minute. That was pretty easy. If that's all we had to do is just say we're going to fix them, we would have got voted in. The party that lost refused to admit that there was a solution to the underpaid frontline workers. There's only one solution. You pay them more. Pay them more. That's it. It's as simple as that. Don't care. They've been underpaid for such a long time. Now they're overworked and underpaid. But did you know that there's like a mantra out there that speaks of an underpaid, overworked worker who is more likely to stay with Stockholm syndrome than leave, because they're really attached to their job and their co-workers, and they'll feel like they'll let their co-workers down. That's it. So you can't get more people into the system. It takes years to train up nurses. Yeah. It takes years. So, we'll just train some more up. Oh, but that'll be after the next election that they'll come in. So the party that won has openly suggested and ran on one of their policies was to increase the wages. Frontline people, put more staff on as well, and that's where that should be. And I do struggle. I struggle with two things. One is when you are too wealthy and ignore the real problems, but rather only look at where you can benefit for yourself. That's atrocious. That shouldn't be a thing. It just shouldn't be. And yet, they'll cry poor and, I'm so poor. And you go, but this is the Prime Minister of England, only paid as much tax as like a mid-level person inside England, despite earning $1.5 billion or something dollars. Only paid $400,000, and that percentage is hideously under what should be paid for that amount of earnings. Because, but there's a system there that supports him not having to pay as much tax. That's extraordinary. That should be the way it is. And it really upsets me that these are the people who run everything. It isn't because they're fantastic at earning money. I'm sure everyone would be fantastic at earning money if we all earned that kind of money. Wow, how good is that? Yeah, it's pretty good. What do you want to do? I don't know. Fly a plane, go somewhere? How about that? Let's just go somewhere. We don't have to work, really, right? If you're earning $1.5 billion a year and only paying $400,000, that's half of 1 million or less. What? There's people earning so much more. Hang on. Let's see. Was that Meki? I don't know. I'll check recents. Yeah. No, it wasn't. And in fact, it didn't even register as a phone call. It must have been spam-like. Yeah, crazy. Anyway, I still don't know where Mackie is yet. If you message me, I'll let you know. So things are going to change here. At the height of the government not having any money, by the way, they decided to tear down a sports stadium rather than fit it out to meet fire regulations. That's it. Then just build a whole new one. Okay. We'll make it better. Yeah, sure. That's without saying. But and it'll meet the fire. Yeah, it'll meet the fire. Yeah, cool. It may not meet the capacity, and then may have to tear it down again and build another one. So when you've got too much money, and I see this with one of my daughters. So imagine we went to a chocolate shop or a shop that sold sweets. And she goes, "Oh, can I have one of those? Can I have one of those?" Okay, I'm just going to give you $20. You buy what you want. And you have a limit of $20. So you've got to buy whatever it is that fits into that. There you go. Hand her the thing. Don't care about the change. Don't give me the change. She won't buy one thing. She'll buy everything at first glance without putting an organized strategy together about how it might look and how can I maximize my dollar spend for because then money was free. I just gave you the money. Now that she earns money, she'll actually go, "Hey Dad, do you want to, I want to buy some chocolate." "Yeah, cool, come to the supermarket. Let's go there and maybe you could buy something for yourself, And she goes, "Oh, yeah, okay." And she'll ponder for ages and try and work out the maximum amount of output that she can get for the money that she earned, because she earned it. It's just stored effort. She she didn't slave over a hot stove or do anything like that. She didn't clean. She earned it through pocket money, right? And my girls were watering my friends, I think, in-laws' lawn because they live 800 kilometres away, and there was no one living in the house. That they were finding renters. So my daughter was paid money she earned some pocket money by going there and helping and watering the garden. Right? Because I mean, this was summer, and if you don't water, it just dies. And they put some new turf down, and that's really expensive to start with. I think Sir Walter, you look it up. Anyway, so I thought that was really interesting that she should be savvy with the money that she earned, but not savvy at all with the free money. And that's kind of where I see most governments. You know, if there's a project, a large project with a huge dollar figure on it, 20% of that is going to be management overhead straight away. Just straight away. Just draw a line and then work out what 20% of that is, and that's what is profit. It could be margin. Probably 5-8% margin or something as well on the effort that's being done. So they're making a huge chunk. And I keep thinking about this when I stare at the development cost of and building of these 10 submarines we're going to get in 20 years. 20 years. If there was still an Australia that wasn't owned by China by that point, or Indonesia for that matter, I don't really care. Either way. And it was worth defending, that money is really well spent. It's great. And look, it's all signed, and I don't know if there's any clause that there's no exit clause possibly, or the exit clause is the cost of the entire project, whether you're delivering those submarines to Australia or not. But apparently it's going to take 20 years to develop and build. But does that mean we're getting a 20-year-old submarine? No. And I hear people argue about this all the time. No. It'll only be the couple of years it took between the sign-off of the tech and the build time is all it's going to be. That's the gap. So when people complain that it's already out of date by the time you get it, well, it's kind of true, but it doesn't mean that you're getting something that's 20 years old. It's only going to be a few years old. Just to point that out to people. I'd like to say that just off the bat. Because it's sad. It's sad. Look, I've got some very good friends. They're close friends, and I talk to them from time to time. I try to avoid most topics. But when I talk to someone who I can immediately identify as a CNN, audience, and that's their only source, I hear it. I hear it in the way they present their inherited opinion. I know which commentator it was that said it. I can identify it. I know. When I hear a Fox person whose only news source is Fox, I can hear the same thing. I hear the sentiment. I hear the argument that their inherited opinion is formed from, right? Because it's the output of that media outlet, and they just basically give you a heading. They wrap sentiment around it, but it's not the arguing. There's no point to argue for a reason why you've come to that conclusion. You don't hear the counter arguments, just the things that support that narrative. And that's the end of that. So when you hear both sides of the story, like it or not, it's your duty to not just simply absorb information as it's told to you from any outlet. Don't believe any of them. But rather gain your opinion by learning both sides of the argument and then formulating your own opinion about whatever the topic is. So right now, if you only watch YouTube, sure, that's curated. You're not getting the full background. Remember, there's things you can and can't say on that platform. If you watch Rumble, yeah, okay, you'll get a deeper dive, but then there's no proof that's backing those statements. And yes, you can start to suffer from confirmation bias, and then that leads you down that inherited opinion without seeing the actual evidence. If you make your decision based on evidence, then I applaud you. Well done, and I'm preaching to the converted. But for the most point, people don't. They don't. Mecky and I had a friend. Well, it was Mecky's friend, and I joined in too. Can't help myself. Feeding the trolls. Yeah. And he only read the headline and then gave us paragraph after paragraph of why he believed this particular angle. And then we said, look, but happy to change our minds, but if you give us the link to the articles and we'll do some research and find out. Well, it was the headline that said one thing, but the story said another, which he didn't read at all. And when we called him out on it, he defriended both of us, which is hilarious. He defriended Mecky, and I then had no contact with him because we were in a chat group, and he was gone. That's the end of that. You know, he defended the media. Oh, I've been working the media 25 years. You know, don't see any of this. All right, well, that's good. But did you know, which he would never have known, that there are, you might call them spooks, but I think that's kind of a little misguided. There are people who get 2 paychecks. They work for the government expressly, but then are placed into a role inside the media outlet themselves as a decision maker to what is, or an influencer to what it goes to air or not, and how it's worded, like a publishing editor would. They're in those roles, and they ensure that the media is, well, I was going to say perpetrating, but it kind of puts a negative connotation. They're running the advice that the government has. And so it's, once again, curated news. Well, it used to be curated news, but now it's kind of just like a tear-off from the head office. So most news outlets now are just simply getting the Reuters feed, reading the story as it is, and that, or from the head office, right? If you're a regional outlet, and that's the end of that. You don't even know why you're reading it out. But these are the top 5 stories for today. Great. All right. Well, someone puts it in auto queue, and then voila, they've got an anchor reading it with conviction. It's great. But when you watch 5 different regional outlets, all owned by the same mothership, and then you hear the same message coming from each of them, exactly word for word, maybe 20, 25 outlets in the US maybe, and it's all the same, you go, where was the journalism? Where is this independent journalism? Where was this investigative journalism? What happened to that? Oh, it's just too expensive. We couldn't do that anymore. So now here's the machine that gives us the tear off. Great. Yeah, people are reading Twitter feeds as news items these days. There might be a link, there might not be a link. They'll read a headline, and then there's, however many words you get, and that's their entire story. And that's really disappointing. I did mass media when I was in California. I went to school in California. The mass media, we had to, for instance, there was the teacher would write something on the board, like it was a topic, an event, and witness 1 said this, witness 2 said that, witness 3 said that. The person involved, the one that was the real person involved, said this. Now write your news article. And you could pick and choose, do whatever you wanted. And when everyone stood up and read their article to the class, we could see these slants. A slant is a perspective or a way of looking at it that differed between each one of the students that read their story out. They all had a different one. You would imagine with the minimum amount of information we had, the stories would read the same, sound the same, and if there was any conjecture, then that would also be the same, because given we weren't given all the information. But no, not at all. That's just not what happened. So each one had a slant, like you were listening to CNN, but back then I didn't listen to those media outlets. So CNN, the Foxes, and you had like an independent one. The independent one kind of came at it pretty right down the middle, and that's what I did too. I didn't want to put a slant on it. And he goes, "Where's your slant?" I go, "What? No, I'm not putting a slant on it. This is matter of fact. Clearly, I'm on spectrum and I've got ADHD probably." And I said, "No, that my dad was a police officer. I'm not going to make up parts of the story to sell a newspaper, for instance, if it's not the truth." Because, you just print a redaction later to say, "Oh, look, we were wrong about this story." Or just write alleged everywhere. No. I'm going to tell you what happened, where it happened, who, and the why if it's explained. Yes. Oh, I guess what? Guess what, people? You'll never guess. But you don't have to guess, I'm going to tell you. Meki has joined us.
My apologies. I have been detained. I did send a message through, but you clearly didn't get it. I sent it via WhatsApp. I should have sent it via something else. WhatsApp
is that what happened?
But I did send it. So
I have notifications turned off on WhatsApp, and that's where the call must have come through for.
That's probably what it is.
That's yeah.
Hey!
So it's notified. Don't ever message me on there.
No, okay.
Unless you want to send me a link to something that you don't want other people to see. It's all good.
Yeah, everybody needs to see it. We all need to see what's going on.
So, I've been talking about the media and about the slant. And so one thing I've learned, I'll round this out. So one thing I've learned about the slant is that when you have, say you are the CNN or you are the Fox, then your audience is entirely your domain. Because very few people will watch both Fox. I mean, they're so polar opposite, it's not funny, but that's by design. It's so by design now than like what it used to be, is that you have, as a government, you have responsibility as either CNN directed by government. You've got to portray a certain message to the people within your jurisdictional audience. And because there's very little crossover between them as an audience member, you've got extremely left-leaning one audience, extremely right-leaning the other audience, and even a fence sitter won't listen to both. One will upset them so bad they've got to move to the other one or find another outlet. Well, I found, Meki, in Australia during the elections, I was seeing very weighted information coming from one channel or another, depending on who they were, and there was slant, and then a really weird kind of unison that they got in the last day and a half, and that was that we need change. It was very strange. So I know that, was it Rupert Murdoch who'd claimed victory at one prior federal election? I believe it was. He'd actually claimed the victory of swaying the people to vote in a particular way. What? Is that your responsibility? It is. Well, it wasn't, but I kind of made it mine, right? So that's what I'm saying. So the slant is really important, and Meki and I know that when we talk to someone, you can hear that slant, and you can presume their position within those different outlets. Now, I've got a friend of mine, Meki, this was the last point, who's a TikTok user, and with zeal, he defended the platform entirely. Yeah, best thing that's ever happened. I use it all the time. Use my source of news. It's all good. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, sure. They sell our data, whatever, right? But look how good it is. I said, yeah, man, but it's free, right? And it's only the team you're on. And if it's the other team, usually people, you're isolated in your belief here, right? But I know that there are the people who are doing it on our team to us, we turn a blind eye to. And it's only that you're not supposed to do it. You're meant to, if you're a government, you're meant to ban the other team's version of it. Just like China has banned, Google, or I think they've got a watered down version, a very filtered version. YouTube and Twitter are banned.
So Google is completely in bed with the Chinese government.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
So, but you're right. What you're saying.
So they've already banned our stuff because we do it too. Now America's talking on the banning of it, right? And that's interesting. It's interesting talk. They won't. I think the CEO dodged and weaved and just kind of put his foot in everything when he was asked the question about, does TikTok communicate to any other members of your network? If you connect via Wi-Fi, for instance, does it actually touch any other devices?
Mm-hmm.
And he just failed to be able to answer the simplest of those questions. His first and immediate answer would have been, no, why would it do that? No, it only talks to the server. But no, it doesn't. So that's really interesting. And I think if you want to do what China has done and ban the platform, those platforms that we have in the West, they're banned in the East. Well, there's no reason why we should say that, America's a big bully for doing it, for banning it over there in America, right? We've already done it here. We've banned it for our, military people or government people. You're not allowed to have TikTok on a work device, for instance. So why not? I don't see the big problem in it. Yeah, I'm sure. If they took Facebook away, I'd be upset. It'd take me ages to download all my photos that I've posted on there.
They're not your photos.
Not anymore.
your photos.
Yeah. Thanks. Sure. Yeah, that's right. So nothing, because these are free platforms. How do you think they make money? They sell us. They sell us to each of the governments that they operate within.
What? Money? What? No one told me about money.
And when they said, we want to charge you to use the platform, that would mean that they're making money from everywhere. Not everyone, just everywhere. They'd be raining money at Facebook.
Yeah, that's what happens. It's raining money. Quickly, money fight. Look, the problem is it's not banning or not banning. I mean, it's completely irrelevant. Mm-hmm. The problem is twofold. One you've completely covered, which is commercial.
Yep.
The other is influence, and that's the more important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not your data is going to be okay. Hang on. Let me explain this properly. Do you really believe that any of your data that you've uploaded to any platform, I don't care what platform it is,
platform X, yep.
Does anybody think that this data is in any which way not accessible by every single government on the planet? Hands up. Now I pray to the...
I hurt my knuckles forcing him into the ground just then. Maybe.
That's right. Just crashing through the floor, his hands were. No, nobody should have lifted their hands out, because the truth is this, okay? Mm-hmm. None of the data that you have on the line is safe, secure, or yours. There are, interestingly enough now, there are applications out there, and there's this one that's very successful. I recently listened to a BBC documentary about it on radio, that allows you, the user, to take ownership of your data. It actually goes through, it's like a meta crawler, right? Mm-hmm. It trawls through everything, and it finds essentially you. And wherever it finds you, it gives you rights. Because the thing is this: it's your data. People have taken it because there's nothing stopping them. Mm-hmm. Now this Metacrawler I forget the name. I will look it up. But then you have the choice. well, do you want the data, I don't know, back under your control entirely, which you can, or
deleted?
Do you want to, or do you want to be commercially reimbursed? And I mean, look, are you going to make millions? Probably not. But there could be a few dollars here and then if that's what you want to do. Great.
If it balances the fee for the software, I'd be happy to.
Well, that's it. And so it's actually quite inexpensive. But the thing is okay. So first of all, that you need to understand that your data is accessible by whomever. Okay. So we're clear on that. In fact, the United States government recently it didn't come clear, but information was released that showed that certainly under Obama and probably before that, wiretapping and illegal surveillance and such of citizens, U.S. citizens, was quite a common thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, never mind surveillance of foreign citizens. And also we know that carnivore is a thing. Now, what is carnivore?
That's right.
Mickey? Carnivore is, well, allegedly, I think it was, in my opinion, I think it was a collaboration between the BND, the Mossad, and the CIA. That's my opinion, which is the Bundesnachrichtendienst of Germany, the Mossad of Israel, and the CIA of the United States. Of course, they're completely non-country aligned agencies. They're just serving themselves, really. But they put together something called Carnivore. There was another version, which I forget the name of, which preceded Carnivore. But what Carnivore does, it essentially surveillances everybody all the time. And that's the thing. That's actually something that is, happening. So what do we do with this information? Well, everybody's afraid that TikTok is Chinese and whatnot. Well, you know what? The Chinese already know everything about you. I mean, this brings me back to the weather balloon. I mean, there's this weather balloon, which is the size of a bus, which is flying across the United States. All of it, by the way, before it's shut down. So all of the United States has been flown over by this weather balloon. And I'm going to talk about something else in a second. When we all know that the Chinese have at least 5,000 satellites in geostationary orbit.
That's right.
Pinpointing at every possible country anywhere, including the United States. So my point here is that this TikTok shutdown is akin to shooting down this weather balloon. It's completely pointless. It's pointless. Now, if they could show that TikTok could disable systems or could, I don't know, insert Trojans into critical government systems or could take critical government systems over, then I'll go, oh, geez, you got a problem. And, you know what I mean? Dave, that would be a problem.
But the information itself,
yeah. You know, honestly, a long time ago, I spoke to a hacker, and funnily enough, quite some time later, I spoke to a government official in my capacity at work. The hacker was just a friend. But the point is this: both these people, with a space in between of these conversations, was with the years. There was years between these conversations, and they said to me, it's pretty much the same thing. I'm going to paraphrase it because it wasn't exactly the same. But they said, look, everybody has a file out there, Mickey, a compilation of data. We call it the ruin file. They both use the same term, by the way, the ruin file. What is that? Well, that's the data every one of us has out there on the internet that could ruin us, that could spell the end of our existence from a social, commercial, etc. point of view. I said, really? I said, yeah, everybody. I mean, if you wanted to put it together, you could quite easily. But we all have stuff out there which could sink us. So TikTok is on, TikTok is off. It is just like this whole Huawei thing. Okay? Most of the Australian infrastructure, 4G, including governmental routers, etc., and wireless access points and all of that, they're all Huawei. Well, all 75% Huawei. Yep. All of it. 5G? Oh, no, we can't have Huawei. It was so bad that Huawei almost, I think, completely exited from Australia.
That's right.
And I was quite close to the general manager here, believe it or not. It's part of my job. I am the relationship guy to some extent, right? And we were quite friendly. And he's now in the Middle East. He runs here in the Middle East, Huawei, a component there. And Colin Hu was his name, Colin Hu. So you know I'm not bullshitting him. And yeah, we got on. We had a good chance. I wouldn't say we're bosom buddies, but He wanted to make money. I wanted to make money. We're doing business, right? But yeah, after that, it's like, nah, can't have it. And it's the same thing. Unless you can show, and then you got a problem. Unless you can show that, that there's a possibility that these systems, these applications, can actually harm your systems or application, or shut them down, or corrupt them, or whatever it might be, right? Okay. But if you're really worried about the data, trust me, the data it's already gone. I mean, do you know what the vetting process is about in Australia or anywhere in the world? You know how many, when you vetted for security purposes?
Oh, yeah.
We all have to fill in these questionnaires, and they come and ask your friends about it. And the key reason that is being done is not to find out if you're ever a communist or socialist or national socialist or any of these things. That's not really important. What is important is whether or not you are blackmailable.
That's right.
Right? Can any of the information in your past render you susceptible to blackmail?
And yes, if you reveal all of that information that they need to make that determination, then at least the government can see or just acknowledge that, and so it's no surprise to them. Yeah.
No, 100%. At that, once everything is out in the open, I mean, once they know about all your stuff and you're honest, it becomes a question of risk assessment. Can we allow you access to these systems? Yes or no? Are you sufficiently safe to be given a certain clearance level?
That's right.
Can a foreign power or other entity
take advantage of that knowledge? That's right.
100%.
So, Meki, I know when I was cross-examined for this, and all I thought in my head was they probably already know all of it anyway, and if I was not to tell the truth or admit something that I withhold something, that they would know that I was withholding it, because I went into it with the expectations they already knew all the answers to the questions they asked.
Of course.
And that way, at least the honesty is there, right? And if you go in any other way, good luck. I'm not going to tell them about that time, behind the shelter sheds at school, right?
Yeah. With the thing and the other thing that there was
I know.
sticking of stuff. What was sticking? I don't know. Who's talking now?
It's across the line.
Look, yeah. So, but what I find amusing is that we are engaging, and this is again from the narrative's point of view. This is the first layer of deception.
Yeah.
To be clear, because nobody cares about your data unless they can somehow take advantage of it, right?
Yeah, that's right. But a portfolio is a portfolio, Meki.
Yeah. Sure.
If it was your data, yeah, sure. But I gave this example before, and that is if you're the daughter or son of someone who has clearance, and and they knew, and it was a list, and they maybe voice wrecked the person who had clearance, and just recorded what was going on, because you've got access to the microphone and camera, just like every other 3-letter agency on the planet has the same thing, and just like every Windows install has an NSA backdoor. Remember that hack? I was talking about this the other day with a friend. The hack that was a virus that actually exploited that NSA DLL by logging in. It found the key and logged in, and then was able to issue commands out of that area. Then there was a patch from Microsoft that all they did was they didn't close the hole, they just changed the encryption. That's all they did. So that exploit no longer was able to log into it. But that didn't stop it from being there. And I said, what? Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well now I expect it to be there. And I expect it in everything that we have from any government that is part of, the country of origin. I just expect it. There's no getting away from it. And it's only what we and everyone's problem with it being TikTok is that it isn't our team. That's the bottom line.
That's right. That's it. Essentially.
Yeah. Do you know when what's his name moved to Russia, right? Whatever, I forget his name now. You know, the guy that said that the American government had been eavesdropping on calls without warrants in the US.
Snowden?
Yeah, Snowden. Why were there not marches in the streets? Why do we just all comply? Go, oh yeah, that's probably true, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Why did people not complain?
Yeah, exactly. Hang on a second. I mean, what now? You say what?
At first, it's not the truth, surely. No, it actually is the truth. And then the government came out and goes, yeah, he was right.
But you shouldn't have told anyone.
Yeah, that's right. That was bad. Telling someone was wrong. It's wrong,
That's
okay?
Right. So wrong. You do the wrong thing now.
Telling people's bad. Okay.
Thanks, Your Honor. We're on a 30-second delay, but thanks for that. Appreciate it. No, it's good. I'm serious. But ultimately, though, and this is the kicker. We discussed this before. The complacency and apathy people have. Imagine the generation just after the war, after World War II, or during World War II, or between the wars, any generation like that, and this information comes out. You're spying on me? What?
Yeah.
Excuse me? They go, yeah. Why? What? And it would be. There'd be a revolution yet again.
You think?
That just wasn't on. It
No.
just wasn't on, right?
What about when the consulate was being bugged, Mickey?
Oh,
And it was Australia doing it.
Oh my!
Right?
That's just.
And there was an
gold.
uproar for a minute.
Yeah,
And
for a
everything's good
minute.
again. Yeah. Why not?
Attention span. Oh, give them some more sugar. Give them sugar. It'll be fine.
We found a bug from every nation, sir. They're all doing it. That's like the Clinton
frankly,
email server, right? Hillary Clinton's email server. Everyone had hacked it.
But you see, I am disturbed that people wouldn't be more upset. But on the other hand, I expect it as well. Yes, I am upset. I am disturbed. But ultimately, I understand why people it's just too hard. It's too hard. I'm not really interested anymore, right? People go, I'm not really interested. What do I care?
Yesterday? Was it yesterday? It probably was. I don't care anymore.
Right? And all of a sudden you're here. And we are where we are. And you go, okay, well, how did we get here? Apathy. Now, having said that, we didn't completely become apathetic on our own. We had help. Okay, education, chemicals in our food. There's a whole raft of things. Over medication is another one. There's a whole raft of things that we have been exposed to.
My pineal gland looks like a tooth, Mickey. There's the music.
You've got a tooth in your head. That's nice. That's this music, brother.
This is the end of the first hour. Coming up next is... what is coming up next? It's the Third Reich and the Occult, Part 3. You'll have to join YouTube. Alright, I'll post that in the chat room.